Hey guys, I'm Chris,
And I'm Adam.
and welcome back to the Gamers Hall.
Today we're going to do another installment in our guidance for the DM.
And today we're going to be talking about how to make and build up a villain.
Yeah. Going through all the steps so you can have a really good villain for your campaign that makes the party interested in what it's doing and allows you to build upon through the campaign and even roll with some of those punches that the party is throwing at you. So it'll really help you to keep a fun idea in mind the whole time and have that villain really shine.
All right, and first we're going to start with how to make your villain. All right, so to start off with, when making a villain, you have to ask yourself the 5 normal questions: who, what, where, when, and why.
Yeah.
And not necessarily in that order.
No, not necessarily in order. So the first question we want to ask is what? What is the idea of this villain? Is it a singular villain out to do a specific purpose, or is it a villain that has an overarching goal?
Yeah, what type of villain is it going to be?
Is this a pope of a church trying to do something? Is this a red dragon or a monster? Doesn't even have to be a red dragon. Is this a monster wanting to do destruction?
Yeah.
Is this the manipulations of a devil? Basically, it's the idea of your campaign given form into the villain.
Yeah, and sometimes you have to work a theme. If you have a theme, you'll know what idea and type to grow on that.
Next is their goals. And this is broken down into 4 main goals. You have control, destroy, create, and chaos. So this is the idea given form in the actions that this villain is probably going to start taking. What is it really intending to do?
Like for instance, your Chaos Dark Knight Joker.
Yeah. No rhyme or reason. It's doing things because it wants to do things.
And it's not for the betterment of himself. He doesn't care. He doesn't want to gain anything. It's just, let the chaos reign and let's see what happens.
Yeah. Create is a Serac trying to create a new god of death.
Mm-hmm.
Destroy is, that giant ancient red dragon is tired of this country being around and it wants to destroy all of it.
Yep, it just wants the land to go back to what it was, simple time. Maybe they were just too noisy with their farming.
Yeah. And then control is like that figurehead of a government, a church, something that just wants to gain more influence over something else. It's going to manipulate. It's going to coerce. It's going to
possess,
talk, strong arm. It's going to try and do whatever it can to take that which it wants. And this will help drive forward the next set of actions that your villain's going to do in more of a direct manner, because that's its goal. That's what it wants in the end, right? This is its end goal, mostly.
Yes. The next part is going to be the why.
Yeah. Why is the villain like this? Why is it chosen to go down this path? Is it has something happened to it in its previous life, or there's an opportunity for it?
This may be something the characters may want to know, or don't want to know, or don't even need to know, but it's something the DM needs to know so that they know how to roleplay this character.
Because this is going to reflect its personality traits, flaws, bonds, its ideals. The why really fleshes out what this character's perspective actually is on the world. Because does it think it's doing something good? Or does it actively know it's doing something bad?
Yeah, what is the true intent of why they are doing what they're doing? Like Thanos, for instance, wanted to wipe out half of existence because he believed it was for the better good.
Yeah, and that is his why. His goal is something different than his why. His goal is to wipe out half the universe. But his why is because he legitimately thinks this is better for the entire universe if he does it. And he has his other reasons behind that as well.
And it's honestly,
things that led him to that belief.
It's honestly what made him one of the best villains. Mm-hmm. Because he wasn't just some crazy psycho maniac. It's like he had an intention, and the intention wasn't even that bad.
No.
In certain aspects it is, but at the same time, like in the greater good, you're like, oh, okay, wow.
And honestly, this one might be the most important of the villains. Is if your villain will shine when it has a true reason to why it's doing what it's doing, because that all the best villains in all stories and movies always have a real good why they're doing what they're doing, and for players to find out, characters to find out, that really changes the story when they do find out what this why is, and it prompts total different responses. But it can become a good key focus to the campaign. Let's get to the who. What is this guy? What is it? Is it
Yeah.
is it the dragon? Is it a cleric? Or is it just a diplomat that has no abilities whatsoever? It just knows how to talk, and it's got a buttload of knowledge that it's using to manipulate things in the way it wants.
Yeah, someone who's very charismatic and can influence others to do and get the things done that he or she needs done.
Right. Its stats need to reflect the goal it wants to get to. It needs to be capable of doing what it wants. The idea, when you build this is where the idea really manifests
the
itself.
stats need to match the ideas that are going towards the goal.
Right. And then, this is why will kind of manifest itself in its personality traits, or maybe even some of the things it chooses to do or use. Maybe it abhors weapons completely because of its reason why, so it's doing something else. Maybe you're going more magic caster with it because it doesn't want to use weapons. This is where you really want to build that character now. Don't really start with the villain at the beginning building stats. Really work your way to that.
Because you have to have the ideas and the goals before you can build what he or she is and what they did to get to a point to where they could start working on those.
You need the blueprints to something before you can build it.
Yeah.
You have to have a sketch of what you're going for before you can actively make
you need a good foundation before it can become a castle.
And then the last one is the win. So now this is after you've got your character made, you got your villain made, you got his goals in mind, you got the overarching idea of what he's going to do, the reasons why he's doing it, all these things come together. Now, when is he going to interact with a party?
Yeah. Is
indirect or direct? Is he, later on going to reveal himself? Finding out when you want these at certain points allow you to build a guide to how this villain is going to function.
Yeah, and it allows you to put the party in a direction of what's going to happen to lead them to this.
Yeah. And this can also help understand whether you want to play more of a railroad campaign or sandbox campaign. How the villain interacts with the party or what they do, if they don't interact at all, really will show the party what they're kind of getting into, and allows you to make that framework. So a indirect villain, this is great for sandbox. The villain's doing a bunch of stuff. But a direct villain really can help railroad the party going, we have to deal with this. We have to deal with this. We have to deal with this.
Yeah, this is the next objective. We have to go here and try and stop this.
And then if you have a villain that just kind of reveals themselves, then you could go from sandbox to railroad immediately. Like, oh no, this is the only thing we need to pay attention to right now. Or the party will say that. And then,
how to build up your villain to your party.
Yeah.
A bunch of different ways that this can go.
So you got 3 speeds, effectively. Slow, fast, bait and switch.
Yeah, the slow build up is going to be, the party does a variety of different quests, and a handful of those quests are going to lead to certain things. Somebody is pulling the strings. They don't know who or how, or maybe they just don't know it at all, and eventually they do a quest that says, oh, these were all linked together. Oh, wait a minute. Well, who is it and how? And then they slowly build up, and then eventually it's like, oh, man, it was this guy. It was this lady.
Whole time?
Like, who would have known it was the Queen of France?
Yeah. She
Yeah.
wasn't even part of the campaign for the first 7 levels. We didn't even know about her.
Yeah, I didn't even know Mary, the
Yeah.
Queen of Scots, could be so cruel.
Right.
But looks so lovely and elegant at the same time.
Yeah. But then you have your fast, which is like, first couple levels in their face immediately. Maybe even from the very get-go, everybody knows who this villain is. Like, it could start off, there is a lich with an undead army. Stop him.
Yeah.
You know who the villain is? There he is. Figure out how to get to him. Or maybe in the first couple of levels, nothing really happens, and all of a sudden, bam, there's your villain. Active role. There's a siege on the castle. We gotta stop that villain. Or, wizard stole something that we have to get back. There's our villain.
Yeah. This guy showed up, and we know he or she is about to rain some chaos over some stuff. We just don't know where. But they showed up once, and they said they're showing up again. Where's the paper trail going to lead us to?
And the last one of the speed is the bait and switch, which is usually a really fun way to get the party members when you like those twists, which is one villain's been set up from the get-go, but that's not the real villain. There's something else behind that villain, that original villain. Or this is not even a villain at all, been totally 100% set up, and the party just thinks it's the villain, and they find out they're wrong after they killed that guy. Totally innocent person.
Yeah.
And this is the actual villain.
Yeah, we thought the king was just a mad tyrant when really it was the jester the whole time who has been slightly influencing him in various precarious ways.
Yeah. Could have been a devil in disguise or a demon or something of that nature. But those are about your speeds. Now you have the longevity of the villain. How long do you want this villain to stay around? Is he the whole campaign? Is it from 1st to 20th? Or is it a small snippet, 3 to 9? Or that villain, or maybe you just have a bunch of consecutive villains, so they're all very small, hit and go type villains. That's really just how that's going to be dependent upon the goal of the villain. The next is the view of the party. Does the villain even care about the party? Because this is how it's going to be, whether indirect or direct. Does it see them and then want to do something to them? Does it look at them and realize who they are? Does it have how does it view it? Now, there's a few keywords that you could use for this. Is the party a tool for the villain to use?
Yeah, does he use them and manipulate them into doing things to get what he or she wants?
Then are they thorns? Are they just constantly just getting in the way? You stop getting in my way. I'm tired of you being in my way. Are they just those annoyances that the villain has to deal with? Then you have the wall. Does the villain just see these guys? They are the thing that I have to get rid of in order to achieve my goal. Like, if I don't get rid of this party, then I'll never get my goal. It's not going to happen.
Your nemesis. Is the main villain a nemesis to one of the party members, if not all of the party members?
Yeah, and this is the villain and the party knowing of each other already and going back and forth. The nemesis knows that he needs to stop the party because the party is for sure going to try and stop him, and vice versa. It's a active back and forth between the two.
Yeah, they're having multiple interactions together, popping up here and there, and
messages left behind. Lieutenants sent to stop them. Just back and forth. The last one,
unknown.
Yeah,
he or she just doesn't know about them. Doesn't even know that they may have fouled a couple of the plans because none of it really matters because, hey, big goal's over here. These other things that led up to it, it didn't matter that they were fouled or not because they need to do whatever work is over here and the party needs to go stop that.
Yeah.
And he or she may have just not even known who they were.
didn't care until the party revealed itself. It's just like, I'm Star-Lord.
Who?
Star-Lord.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, y'all, you guys need to leave. Done.
Yeah. And that could be just how your villain sees them as the unknown. Like, or your party's really good at being stealthy and snuck all the way up on them. So the villain is very surprised by what just happened. But those are some good ways of defining the view of the party and the relationship that they would have.
Last part of this is going to be the last stand. What your big interaction, the last stand that the main villain is going to have with the party. How is this going to act? And it needs to be epic.
Epic. Totally epic. Everything you've done so far needs to lead up to this point. It needs to feel big. It needs to feel important. The party needs to know that what they're about to do matters completely, and everything is balanced on this one last stand. This could be the culmination of the goal that the villain had. This could be the revenge that the villain is getting because their goal has been stopped by the party. Now the villain's like, no, I'm now going to come after you specifically and take you down. This should be what your players for years talk about. After this happens, the villain, they've learned all this stuff. It's all led to this moment. This fight needs to end with the players going, woo, man, that was amazing. Things have needed to happen.
Yeah. Like they need to know that all that work, all the quests that led up to this is going to be worth it. And hey, guys, all of us might not make it out.
Right. I mean, you need to think about the battlefield. You need to think about the things that the players have needed to gather possibly to beat this. You need to figure out how much the villain truly cares about what this party is doing and what they were willing to do to them. All these little facets need to come into play at this final stand, so your story wraps up and where everybody just gets done with it and really goes, wow, what's next? I can't wait to find out what's next. Versus like, oh, okay, what's next? You never want the party to ever feel that this last stand was nothing. You want it to be epic.
Yeah, you want it to be memories that you and your friends are going to talk about later on down the road at some point. Even if it's just to bring up like, hey man, remember when we killed that lich?
Oh, yeah, I do. Man, that was hard.
Who would have known that Beholder would show up out of nowhere?
Right. But what this also does is make your next one easier. The next villain will be easier if the party is already ready for it and they're expecting it. They're going to try to push because they knew that the last one was good. Why wouldn't this new one be good? Or maybe the next campaign is going to be really good because this one ended so well.
Yeah. But now, with all this being said, we're going to give you an example of all of these things that we've been talking about. So let's get into that.
So I'm going to give an example of a villain I ran for our Waterdeep campaign that we did. We were doing the dragon heist, but I implemented in a secondary villain that would also drive the story while they were not actively dealing with the heist, and then also would lead us to Dungeon of the Mad Mage. So it allowed us to have a crossover between.
Right. So who was your villain?
Right. Well, his name was Ruul, Champion of Baal. They started calling him Mantag for various reasons, but Ruul, Champion of Baal. And the idea was he's an assassin serial killer. Starts off as an assassin way back, but now he is killing random people in the city for whatever reason. And you guys were detectives. Or you had a detective agency, so it makes sense that they would need to find somebody who's just killing people randomly.
Yeah, and what was the goal behind this character?
The goal was he wanted to become a champion or actually he wanted to become literally an avatar of Baal. He wanted to ascend past, and the only way that he could do that is to cause these murders. But really, his goal was also to get the party, because he needed witnesses for what he's doing. Because Baal is not just going to give any run-of-the-mill murderer avatar state.
Right.
He wants people to know that this guy is a killer through and through. So he needed somebody, some people to truly follow this path down so he can achieve it. The why. The why was the background. I wanted a kind of a tragic, somewhat story for him to be pushed towards a serial killer. Well, he's a changeling. Ruul doesn't typically fit in anywhere, but fits in everywhere. But he's not one of everybody. And his family was actually originally murdered in front of him. And then he's just left with the aftermath. Some could say that
Bit of psychological damage.
psychological damage, but it could have been divine to begin with. Maybe these murders were happening so he can get to this place. I never really delved too much into that unless the players wanted to get into that. So it never came to really figuring that out. Just figured out that he was set upon and became an assassin. And then he ends up finding a book about the Baal spawn. And then that triggers his real quest for, well, if I start killing all these people, I can become like Baal himself. So it's a path that he's willing to take.
It took us a long time to figure that out.
Right. So stats wise, I made him an assassin paladin. He is an assassin, and the paladin fits the divine sword. Plus, it really is a lot of damage. If you want some guy to just be able to pop a person, the fact that he can hide, then wait, and then just come out of the shadows, sneak attack, smite the crap out of somebody with an auto crit. I mean, sounds like an assassin to me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
But he had a lot of skills. He had ability to disguise himself. He had items that allowed him to get places like the cloak of the bat, so he could float to different places.
I remember that.
Yeah, shoes that left no trace. Just different items and abilities and contacts that he could use to manipulate things in a certain way. Plus, he had lots of information. So I really made him statted out to where they're going to face him at some point. This guy is going to be a true problem, but they have to get to him and get through the problems that he causes to actually face it.
Yeah, and a lot of this also builds towards what our characters were, which was, like, we did a lot of investigating, so there was a lot of skill challenges, and a lot of these magic items made it to where a lot of our skill challenges were a bit harder, and that's why it took us so long to figure some of this stuff out, because we're like, what? There's no tracks, there's no footprints. I mean, we got some scorch marks over here, and
he literally just appears out of nowhere, kills somebody in front of our face, frames us for the murder itself, so now we're going to be the ones chased, and then disappears without a trace completely. And now nobody really believes us, although they did some interesting things to make them to believe that they're not the ones who did it, that Ruul was not expecting. But the win with this was I started like level 2. I dropped a little hint. There's some murders in the city. You guys are detectives. Figure some stuff out. Then I had small interactions, like the one where he appears and murders somebody in front of them. I mean, that's a direct interaction, but then they're like, who the heck is that guy? And why did he just say what he said? And then later on, another murder happens that they're being framed for, that now they have to actively stop. And then another one that's coming that now they're like, he's leading more obvious trails for them to follow. And eventually it's working down to they find where he's going to be at. But this is where it leads to the last stand, which makes it very important. They know now Ruul. They found the book that Ruul is using that taught him to try to become a Baal spawn. They know now what he's willing and capable of doing. He's had interactions. He's told it to their face what what they'll do. They know that he's watched them actively. They know where he's going now and what he's about to do, which he is on the cusp of his ascendancy, and they have to stop it. They also know that he's captured 3 innocent people, that he will kill them if they don't come.
Yeah, my character was mad because we didn't save him.
And then the key for the last stand to make this epic is Ruul was prepared. He already knew they were coming. He had set up in a jigsaw style, like Saw the movie, set up where these 3 people would be killed by the actions of the party. They could save these people, but one was going to be crushed to death, one was going to be chopped to death, and another one was going to be, put
through like a blender type thing.
Like stab. I forgot exactly. Basically, horrible deaths that the people were going to die pretty quickly from, but they're going to be in agony for a little bit.
You had a pit with the dagger spell at the bottom.
Oh yeah. It was going to churn them and blender them inside the thing, and it all set up. And then there was an altar of Baal in the back where he's at, and the final stand was, "You're going to watch me murder these people in front of you. How are you going to stop me?" Now, the catch was, they didn't know this at the time, but he needed to be killed himself. So the true act of Ruul was to get somebody to murder him, not out of just like a random act. No, it's like true, we have to kill this guy. And he was planning it all to be killed on the altar or near the altar. So when that happens, the full ritual happens, and then the avatar is born. From this murder, all these murders happen, this murderous last act happens. Then the avatar appears, and Ruul fully ascends.
Yeah, and we totally fouled that plan by sheer accident.
Sheer accident, because they fell right for my trap. They allowed all the innocents to be murdered. They rushed in. They didn't talk. They didn't try and play Ruul's games. Like, no, he's going to kill him anyway. And he's like, okay,
I
cool.
tried to.
He tried to. The others did not. But that build up to that, and then they learned that the altar was the key to actually stopping the change. So they actually, by accident.
We didn't learn that the altar was it. Gustavo, who was playing a paladin, was completely just appalled by the altar and wanted to destroy it just to destroy it. And it was like, yeah, it's like, bam, he threw a hammer at it and blew it up, I think, or...
I forgot exactly. Oh, he had the shatter spell.
Oh, yeah, the shatter spell.
It was a bard paladin.
Yeah.
And he actually cast the shatter spell on the altar, and it caused it to be damaged. And then once that damage happened, they noticed that the magic that was happening stuttered, which was his reincarnation, which was going to happen after a minute of him just popping right back up and resurrecting as this avatar. And then they're like, oh crap, we got to destroy that thing. And then they went to wailing on it and doing as much possible damage as they could to the altar before Ruul could be reborn.
Yep, sheer accident.
But after that, my party was completely okay with the villain. They remember him. It was just like, wow. And even if I bring it up today, they're like, yeah, Mantag sucked.
we always call him Mantag.
Called him Mantag because he played Tag You're It, which was the game he played at first. Was Tag You're It, back and forth.
Yep.
And that's an example of a villain. Which, if you would love to use that villain in your campaign, please do it. It was so fun to play and so fun to run and mess with my party back and forth while they're trying to do something more important. This guy's not necessarily that important, even though he was, but it's fun. But hey, if you got more examples of villains that you would like to share, throw them down in the comments. Let us know.
And if you like the content we're putting out, don't forget to like and subscribe. And share the videos to your DM or other players.
Yeah. Maybe help another DM, figure out how to build a villain. love to show that.
Yeah. But until then, guys, keep having fun with your friends.
Yeah. And just like the spell, try to make your DMs a little bit better.